So thank you so much for your time. We are here, Gaurav, Anand, and myself, to help you understand how to scale your Agentforce apps as well as your agents, so that during the time of peak performance or for peak readiness, you are able to maneuver across efficiently and smoothly. Our standard process, a bit of forward-looking statement, whatever decision that you make should be based on the commercial availability of the product. There will be a lot of product map or product roadmap discussions as well that will be happening over here. Thank you so much for your time. Gaurav.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for showing up here. Thank you for devoting 2 days of your life to TDX and for learning. A little bit about me. My name is Gaurav Khetrapal. I run a small consulting company called OneShift Technologies. I've been doing Salesforce for about 18 years. I've been to every single TDX and also very grateful to have presented at every single TDX. And as Mayuresh mentioned, over the next 40 minutes, we'll talk about the Agentforce lifecycle, more towards what happens after you have deployed it, how do you test it, and how do you kind of scale it as well. Mayuresh, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Mayuresh Verma. I'm based out of India, work in the capacity of product manager for ApexGuru and Scale Center. Anand.
I'm Anand Vadan. I've been working in Salesforce for about 8 years now. I'm a principal engineer here in Salesforce. Thank you.
All right, so let's start. All right, so if you attended the keynote, again, there's a resounding message that Agentforce is the future. But how did we kind of get here, and what has really happened in the world in the last 15 to 20 years? So we all remember chatbots. We have interacted with chatbots on websites. These were great for a certain period of time. They work based on certain principles, like there are fixed rules, there are repetitive tasks. And it kind of, if you ask a chatbot to do something, it can only do it in the same way. There are certain rules which kind of define how it does that. Then we entered into the era of copilots, as we call them, which were smarter chatbots. It was smart, tailored assistant. A simple example could be you want to know about a certain order, and then Einstein or any other copilot for that matter tells you the tracking number and when it will arrive by. There was certain intelligence there, but it was not able to generate intelligence on its own. And that's the era now we are entering with Agentforce, where Agentforce not just kind of has conversational capabilities, where it just can't tell you factual data, but it can also generate intelligence on its own. So it knows your business, there is a reasoning aspect to it, there is a planner aspect to it, it can take action, and then most importantly, it can scale. One thing which we do want to point out is there are a lot of sessions at TDX over the next 2 days, which will talk a lot about the first 3 phases of this life cycle, which is ideation, setup, how do you configure and deploy Agentforce agent. But this is probably one of the few sessions which actually talks about what really happens after you have deployed an agent. How do you test it? How do you kind of monitor it? And how do you scale it? Because again, we all know when we build things in prototypes, when we build out MVPs versus what really happens in production are 2 different things. So thankfully, there are actually tools for each of these phases. There is Agent Creator, which is basically when you are ideating the agent. Agent Builder, which is when you are setting up the agent, you are configuring the agent. And as I said, the key focus for this session is what really happens after you have configured the agent. How do you test it using Testing Center? You saw a little bit of a preview in the keynote as well. How do you deploy it using Agent Builder? And then most importantly, how do you kind of monitor it on an ongoing basis using Testing Center? Let's move forward. So as I said, I run a partner consulting firm, and typically the challenges that we have actually seen is not just with agents, but with solutions in general is when it comes to scalability, when it comes to performance, when it comes to monitoring and compliance, these are some of the more challenging aspects, or what we also call as NFRs, or non-functional requirements. So one thing is you have built an agent, you have deployed an agent, it is working for a simplistic use case, but does it scale? Does it scale to 100,000 users? Does it scale to 1 million users? Is it able to handle typical enterprise traffic? Like for example, in commerce, holiday season is a peak season. Can my commerce agent scale to those volumes? Then performance monitoring and SLAs. Like for example, if we set a SLA of 99.99% uptime for an agent and it should respond in certain milliseconds, is it able to do that or not? With AI, there is a concept of reliable AI. There is also a concept of responsible AI. How do we prevent bias with our agents? How do we ensure compliance? And then how do we also ensure that our agents are adapting reliably reliably as well. Hallucinations and reliability, again, a very common term in terms of like pretty much all the agentic platforms are kind of figuring out how to kind of reduce the number of hallucinations, make agents more reliable. Again, that remains a challenge as well. Multi-agent coordination, we are not there yet, but the way things are shaping up, the future would be probably a Salesforce agent talking to a ServiceNow agent or a NetSuite agent. We are not really that far away from that. So how does that coordination happen? How do we prevent conflicts? How do we prevent bias from each agent to the other agent when we are doing inter-agent interaction as well? And then hybrid AI, LLMs and reasoning, like DeepSeek has kind of changed the whole concept in terms of how reasoning was looked at in the world of LLMs, but how do we balance LLM-based reasoning with deterministic rule-based AI? This is just one example. Several other challenges like this. Let's go to the next slide.
Yes. So with this, Gaurav has highlighted the key challenges that we have been facing. A lot of our customers, a lot of our partners, a lot of the implementers face from an agent perspective as well as an app perspective. And that's where the Scale product suite comes into the picture. Now, there are three key things that I would want all of you to just remember. Scale product offers the infrastructure, observability, and insights. Now, these are the three key milestones or three key pillars that we'll be discussing in the further slides as well. From an entire product suite perspective, Scale Test, Scale Center, and ApexGuru. These are the three products that Scale Suite offers. Scale Test, which is the infrastructure, it helps you and your agents to do a testing before the agents are deployed in the production. It should be part of your existing application. Scale Center, it gives you a near real-time insight as to how your agents are performing, the observability part that I was talking of. And then comes the insight, ApexGuru, which helps you write scalable and performant code. Before I get into the features, just a show of hands, how have any one of you have used the products? Scale Center, ApexGuru?
Yeah, very few. This is one of the best kept secrets of Salesforce. So if you are in this session, you are in the right place.
Right, not a secret anymore. So Scale Center, the observability aspect of Scale Suite, it gives you a view on how your app has been performing on a near real-time basis. Not only observation, it also helps you investigate as to what is causing that particular slowness or what is the performance issue that has happened. In addition to that, the outcome of that actually, observation and deep dive or investigation, is that your scale health or the health of your org is good, is sustainable, can sustain for long. This is the first product, Scale Center, which is already GA, available for Unlimited Edition and Signature customers. Then comes ApexGuru, which is a developer-focused product. It helps, or it was our first Gen AI-based product, which helps identify the code anti-patterns, the Apex code anti-patterns, and categorizes it into critical, major, minor, depending on the runtime profile analysis of your code. And it also gives the recommended fix. While there are anti-patterns, how do I solve it? That particular problem also is solved by ApexGuru. Just a view on our other, I think 80% of users. Now in your org, in your Salesforce org, you go under setup, you click on setup, you search for Scale Center over here. When you search for Scale Center, within the setup menu, you will find all these 4 or 5 features available. I'll quickly take you through what are the existing features. Within Scale Center, you'll be able to find 2 leaves, org performance and performance analysis. Now assume that your org is facing some sort of bottleneck or some sort of issue. Your customers are complaining that org is down, I'm not able to maybe chat anything or type anything or do any sort of function. That's when you come to Scale Center. When you come to Scale Center, you go on org performance, you click on it, you identify the time slot. The time slot where you feel that there would be some sort of bottleneck. You select it, once you select it, you submit it, it gives you a view on, just a second. Yeah, it gives you a view on my total or a summary of what are the key metrics that I can observe in that particular time frame. I get a view on total successful logins, failed logins, my Apex errors, my concurrent UI errors, my roll-lock errors. Now assume for this particular situation that your customers have been complaining in the last 30 minutes, I observe that the row lock errors is significantly high. I get a view that I need to triage it, I need to fix this. In addition to the existing summary, you get a view on the total execution errors bifurcated across the various kinds of errors, like total concurrent errors or UI errors, and so on and so forth. In addition to this, you get a view on average request time. Again, bifurcation against what are the kind of average requests. Total request volumes, total CPU time bifurcated as app CPU as well as DB CPU, total logins, remember successful logins, failed logins in the summary part, and average callout time plus total callout errors. Now, as an investigator or as an admin, my next step is to, while I know that there have been errors over here, I need to triage the row lock errors. What do I do next? I know that the error is happening somewhere here, which is nothing but the row lock error. I click on this, the drop down. I get a view on what are the various investigations. Remember in Scale Center, I had told you observation and then deep dive into it, and that this is the segue to deep diving in those insights. You click on consolidated report, or you can click maybe just on row lock, because that is where I'm seeing a spike over here. Now I click on, now for the sake of this discussion, I'm just clicking on consolidated report. It'll take about 5 to 10 minutes to generate the report. Analysis type, I give the report a particular name, and I've already kept it open for the sake of this meeting. So over here, the reports can be accessed via the second feature, which is performance analysis. I click on performance analysis, my report gets created over here. I click on this particular report, and while it is loading, I get a view on during that particular time slot, the row lock error that had happened, what was causing it. Now within the deep dive, since it is a consolidated report, you get a view on all the kind of parameters, performance metrics that are available. Apex concurrency, you get a view on a similar summary, how the org throttle has been applied or not, my concurrent errors, my concurrent API errors. While this is the summary, this you get a time spent view, my long running Apex transactions, what are the entry points, again bifurcated as critical, major, minor. So from a user perspective, your first view would go under critical entry points. I need to resolve those entry points first. So I'll identify these entry points. I have a recommendation section as well that gives me, or it's a key takeaway, how do I solve those long running transactions. In addition to that, there are top contributors, top 5 expensive sockets, DMLs, row lock errors, multiple other features in Scale Center. Similarly, you get a view on Apex summary, my top slow classes, again bifurcated as critical, major, minor, Apex errors, expensive sockets, DMLs on objects, along with the parameters associated with it. In addition to this, there are some other features. I would really urge all of you, if you have the access, please play with it. If not, please reach out to your account team and we'll get that enabled for you. You have DB performance, you have failed logins, flow performance, governor limits, whether governor limits were hit, what was the reason behind it, things like these. How if your org is very integration heavy, the view of that. In addition to list views and reports and row lock as well. Now this is the existing feature of Scale Center. In addition to this, you get a view on ApexGuru, which was the third product. First was Scale Test, Scale Center, and third was ApexGuru. ApexGuru, I click on it, I get a view on what are those anti-patterns in my Apex code that are causing performance issues, that are bottlenecks. So you get a recommendation, you get the current code, which is an anti-pattern, you get the Apex class, the entry point, and the recommended code as well. What do I use instead of the bad practice or malpractice or anti-pattern around it? So ApexGuru has 4 sub-features: code recommendation, socket DML analysis, expensive methods, those methods that are occupying more than 5% of my CPU time, those methods that are occupying more than 2%, less than 5% of my CPU time, and unused classes and methods. A lot of customers have been using this particular feature from a tech debt reduction perspective as well. The criticality of the code that is highlighted is basis the runtime profile analysis. So if this particular code is highlighted as critical, it means that it has been called pretty frequently during the last week. So that's how we leverage ApexGuru. You can find it within Scale Center once you search for Scale Center in your setup menu. Like, now we are getting into the customer case study. It's very interesting from an Agentforce implementation perspective. Now assume Pronto. Pronto is one of the leading AI-driven food industry organization which specializes in delivering food. It is a huge organization with almost about 20 million end users, 25,000 partner users, which includes merchants as well as delivery partners. Now from a Pronto perspective, we want to scale. The customer or Pronto wants to scale. So what's the business need over here? The business need is large data volumes is going to come because they will be looking at expanding geographically into many other markets. Now this cannot be done with the help, with the existing set of IT tools. There should be innovation that comes into the picture. And that's where scaling AI with Agentforce comes into the picture. Gaurav, how do you think Pronto can scale?
So looking at the numbers that you showed, like millions of users and 25,000 odd partner users, I'm assuming a lot of things that they are doing currently is manual, and as we say, like to err is human, and wherever you have humans, we have errors. One of the solutions could be, we could try out having a couple of agents, like a merchant agent as well as a customer agent, and try and automate as much as possible in the order management flow for Pronto.
Yeah, so just to give a view on how it would look like from a customer perspective, if you go on a website, maybe some food ordering website, you have chatbots. Now in earlier slide, Gaurav had highlighted that we are moving from chatbots to co-pilots to now agents. Just replace that with agents. That is how you need to visualize it. Now let's see, all of you would be hearing about it. How will an agent be created? I won't take much time over here. Using Agent Builder and Apex Actions. Just a summary view. Now you already know how to code in Apex. You have certain action that you want to build in agent. You get into the agent builder, you configure the agent, you reference the Apex action, and then after that you configure that particular action. If there is certain customization that needs to be done, do it in VS Code or Code Builder, batch test and deploy the agent. So with that, so you remember the use case. Use case is Pronto needs to scale. Pronto needs to get into many other geographies. And from that perspective, Gaurav highlighted that we can leverage Agentforce for maybe merchant agents or customer agents. And that's where our next use case comes into the picture. It's Friday night, weekend, huge rush. Earlier, everything was manual. During chatbots time, during co-pilots time, now there is agent time. Now everything, there is huge traffic from a Pronto website perspective. Can agents handle the workload or traffic? This is the website. Bottom right, you can see the agent conversation that is happening. So we'll be showing you two use cases. One is the merchant agent. Me as a restaurant owner, I want to change the delivery status. And because it is weekend, because it is peak rush, there are multiple conversations ongoing parallelly. Agent is not able to respond in a timely fashion, making it effective or making it frustrating for the restaurant owner. And that's where it leads to slowdown, delaying order updates. From a merchant perspective, I just wanted to update an order that I had sent, which I'm not able to do right now. Merchants are frustrated. But what about the customers? From a customer perspective, they just want to understand what is the status of my order. And because of peak rush, agents are not able to respond to them in a timely fashion, making it frustrating for the customer, leading to maybe order abandonment. But what went wrong?
So deploying an agent is half the battle won. You need to make sure that your agent is also able to scale. So let's actually move on to the next slide. In this case, we deployed a customer agent to serve our customers. We deployed a merchant agent to serve our merchants. We probably tested it in a unit test scenario, but we never really tested it on a Friday night when nobody wants to cook at home. Everybody wants to order from Pronto, and that's where our agents kind of could not handle. So how does Pronto ensure real-time responses even during peak load? they should actually use these tools which we have just demonstrated, which are Scale Center and ApexGuru. Make sure that their agent just doesn't work in a happy path scenario or under low load conditions. It also works in what we call as a typical high volume scenario as well. So let's do a demo.
Yeah, Anand.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you. Thanks, Mahesh. So as you were seeing, the issue that the Pronto team was facing was about the understanding of the merchant agents, where it's causing the slowness. As you would have seen from Scale Center, we have now created an agent performance tab wherein you can get the metrics associated to all the agents that you will have in the time frame. If you select the time and give the data, you will see all the data about all the agents that your org has been deployed. In this case, we are providing session-based requests. So what will the session request give to you as a developer? The session request will give you total number of sessions that were happening for that time frame across the board for that org. Total messages in each session, how many messages were being processed for those set of orgs, for that set of agents. We also are providing total errors that were being experienced by the users who were deploying the agents for. We are also providing some of the metrics associated to row logs and server-side concurrent Apex errors. Now let's look at the graphs, each of these, what these suggest and what the data is being provided for. The first graph that you see for agents specifically is the merchant agent, and the time window is where the times you will see how much time it is taking for the agents to respond to the users. Agent sessions gives you the data about what is the time when the maximum number of agents have been active. The second graph also gives you what is the time when the maximum number of messages have been provided. Remember, not every session can translate into the same set of messages. So there might be scenarios where your sessions might be more, but messages might be less, and vice versa. So the messages will give you the data around that. We are also providing you P95 latency, which means that your agents, the merchant agent specifically, in this case, what was the P95 latency end to end from an agent perspective, what that merchant agent was experiencing. When we also provided planner response time, you would have seen in Agentforce demos and other sessions that planner is the key component which determines the actions that is being executed. This planner response time will be a key criteria for you to determine where is the slowness that is happening. So planner response time will give you the data. We'll click on this and try and do an analysis, just like how we were trying to analyze the previous set of concurrent issues. So we click on this, we provide some data around what is the name of the report that you see, and then click on submit. This is an asynchronous process that is there in Scale Center. Once the report is completely generated, what we can do is click on this report, and this is where the crux of the report will come. I'll explain this report in detail now going forward. So the first data is pretty much the same that you saw in the agent performance page, where we were showing the total sessions, messages, and errors. However, we will also show total actions that are being executed. Now we know actions across the board can be different types, where you have Apex-based actions, standard actions, flows, or your general prompt response itself. Now as a developer or architect, you would probably want to understand how many of them are successful calls or the calls that are running into errors. And then from the metric standpoint, which is what as a user you would probably want to deep dive for merchant agent, what is the time that is being taken, how many calls those merchant agents are making. Now under the hood, if you have REST API based invocations, we also surface the latencies, P95 latencies of each of the agents, whether it's merchant agent, restaurant delivery, whatever agents, REST API calls that you are making, these P95 latencies will be shown. This is a key critical component because we feel that if your latencies are increasing of those REST API calls, you can be assured that there is a problem going on. The second section that we want to highlight is the insights on agents and the actions themselves. This is the key critical insight that you will be able to determine where the Pronto team was facing the problems. Remember, Pronto had deployed merchant agent, support agent, and others. So merchant agent will have different topics you would see in the different sessions of TDX, you'll create different topics and the functions that associated to those topics. What are the topics? We will provide the data around that, whether it's an Apex-based topic or a flow-based topic, and the function names themselves. We will also provide P95 latencies associated to each of the topics. So it's a very powerful addition for you to understand how your topic by topic agents are performing. Now, as you can see, from the most used and slowest actions, it's clearly showing the case resolution for the merchant agent was where the maximum latencies were being observed. Not just that, as a user, there will be scenarios where you will want to, this graph shows you topic by topic, each of the merchants and the top 5 of them. But in cases where you want to have a consolidated view of all the agents that you have created, what are the count of executions, how many chats they have executed, what are the sessions counts that these guys are running into. So this will give you data around which agent is most active, what is the P95 latency of that, and the number of calls that these agents are making. We'll also give you data around P95 runtime of API calls that your org would be making during this time. Why this is important? Because we believe all the enterprise apps that you create would have some kind of API-based interactions, and this is a way where you can directly go and look into that to correlate your problem statements. Similarly, we also provide you data around prompts and the runtime of those prompts specifically. In this case, what we saw was merchant agent was the slowest of all the actions, which is what we are providing, and there is a Pronto Copilot query records that is creating higher latency. Now let's look into what we can do for the ApexGuru. Thanks. Thank you. So for the Pronto merchant delivery get query records that we were showing, ApexGuru would be able to tell you what is the actual recommendation and what's the problem that was happening. In this case, the Pronto Copilot and the entry point that we are showing, there was a SOCL that was written in a loop, and the recommended code associated to that is being provided. So as a user, you can go ahead and deploy this code and test it for yourself to be able to successfully resolve any kind of performance problems. We'll also provide expensive methods in that cases if there are any. In this case, the SOCL DML analysis is what you have. Next slide. Next.
So now everything has been resolved, which means customer faced a problem, we got into the use case, how the products can be leveraged. Gaurav, over to you.
Okay. So now that we have kind of done the full cycle, we have not just deployed an agent, we have also tested it for scale. Let's actually see the merchant experience and the customer experience. Instant processing, no delays, real-time updates, happy merchants. Instant responses, no frustration, improved experience, happy customers who are having their food. So with Scale Center, ApexGuru, the agents are now faster, it's more efficient. Obviously, it can handle the peak traffic seamlessly. That is obviously one of the big objectives of deploying an agent as well. So some of the key use cases that for Pronto that we talked about, get day-to-day agent observability. You get access to real-time org telemetry and insights, gauge new development performance in a sandbox. You can perform scale testing in a sandbox, also get access to test results. You can address a recent concurrency split or performance concern. Again, we are getting into a little bit of performance monitoring realm here, but you can run performance analysis. You can get actually a time frame to kind of identify the root cause for an issue. You can get insights on your slowest agents, what is actually causing the whole process to slow down. You can perform investigations and then kind of scale the performance of those agents as well. And then obviously, as Arvind and Mayuresh showed, you can actually optimize Apex, and then you can access scale insights with prioritized recommendations as well. So it just doesn't tell you what the problem is, it actually gives you a recommendation as well in terms of how to fix it.
Great. So just one addition to that, all the problems that the customer has faced, be it observation, be it infrastructure, or be it insights, the scale products, which is Scale Test, Scale Center, ApexGuru, are covering all the aspects of it.
So we looked at this image earlier, and as I said, like a lot of people will focus on building out the agent, configuring an agent, but if you have to deploy an agent in production and if it has to work in a real life scenario, the last three phases, which is testing, deployment, monitoring, these are pivotal. this is where all these tools come in. So for testing, please leverage a scale test. You can test your agents at peak loads. For deployment, use ApexGuru. You can detect scale anti-patterns, also get recommendations as well. And for monitoring, obviously there is Scale Center again, where you can measure your optimal agent response times, as well as kind of do improvements to lower that response time as well.
And one of those few sessions where you'll find detailing around how to maneuver across the test, deploy, and monitor phase once you have started deploying the agents. Now, some of the key metrics, the proof of the pudding is in eating, which means the products were GA'd, but how has been the growth of it? These products, which is Scale Center, has been used by multiple orgs successfully, lot of reports getting generated, lot of insights getting generated. You can view that from the monthly active orgs. Similarly for ApexGuru. And this is how the product roadmap looks like for our products. From a Scale Center perspective, we are getting into the concurrent Apex Summary GA, search insights. There will be an in-app feedback button which will bring us much more closer to our users, where you can directly share your feedback. From ApexGuru perspective, now every insight that the customer has implemented, there would be a latency improvement that can be associated with it. That is also what we'll be surfacing. We understand ApexGuru is a developer-focused product, and that is why it is important that there is a shift left that happens, which means the developers early in the environment cycle or development cycle are able to access ApexGuru. We are already in beta, which is with code analyzer integration is how we are solving that. And some more additional anti-patterns for Apex is what is getting into ApexGuru. In addition to that, few upcoming releases, on-demand insights, because right now report insights and few other insights in Scale Center are generated on a weekly basis. We are trying to empower our customers by giving them on-demand generation, which means whenever you need it, you can generate it. Database insights is also in pilot. Lex insights is also going to come up. From a customer impact perspective, on-demand generation, that will also come in ApexGuru. Test case anti-patterns are also going to come in ApexGuru, along with additional anti-patterns. And by the end of the year, you will see a lot of these features GA'd. Scale Center will be available for our Enterprise Edition customers as well. Earlier, if you recollect, we had highlighted only for Signature and UE customers. We are also catering to Enterprise Edition customers going down the year. And that's what you'll see around this. And whatever you saw over here from whatever Anand has highlighted from an agent performance perspective, that will get GA by the end of the year. In addition to that, from ApexGuru perspective, project scanning in your code analyzer, in your VS Code IDE will be available. Enterprise editions, we are also getting into GovCloud. Will also be available for ISVs by the end of the year. Scale Center, ApexGuru as well. With this QR code, you'll be able to get all the resources that we have discussed so far, get access to all the resources, FAQs, documents, everything that will help you come to base with this. Anything that you'd like to call out?
No, as I said, these are very valuable tools. Again, and not a lot of people know about them, not a lot of people use them, but as I said, this is one of the best kept secrets which we are sharing with you. So make good use out of it. I think we have some time. We can take some questions as well.
If you have any questions,
there is a mic here. If anybody wants to ask a question, please come over to the mic and you're welcome to ask any questions you have.